Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society.
Untitled Princess Peach game. Untitled Princess Peach game. Untitled Princess Peach game.
It's showtime! It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, and I am joined, as I am always joined, by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. Mark, happy Nintendo Direct Day.
Yeah, happy Nintendo Direct Day to you, too.
Thank you. It's a holiday.
It is a holiday. We, kind of planted our flag hoping that this would end up being the case.
Yeah, I mean, my real hope was that it was going to be the day before, so there would be no interruption to our recording schedule.
Oh, sure.
But then I'm also like, why are we so precious about this recording and release schedule? We need to go, Mark. Where the news goes, we need to follow.
Yes,
right?
Yeah, and I believe the world is forgiving on a Nintendo Direct Day.
I mean, who can even think straight, right? Like you're running around, you're calling your mom. You know,
it's true.
Checking in with your friends.
You there, boy? What day is it?
Today? Why, it's Nintendo Direct Day.
I thought so.
Is that what Scrooge says? Is
pretty
I
sure.
thought
Yeah.
so?
Yeah.
He's like, that's what I thought.
Makes sense. Had a lot of dreams about it last night. Pretty sure that's also in the book.
Yeah. But he doesn't think they're dreams, right? He thinks he was actually visited by three spirits.
This debate may actually be in the book. We know Dickens was paid by the word. It was a serialized
that's a great point. Yes.
story.
Uh-huh.
So he probably stretched it out as much as he possibly could.
But like at that point, when he's done being visited by the three, and I understand that it's September and we are a ways away from Christmas, but I want to really drill down into this. By the time you get Scrooge back from like his last adventure with the ghost, how much story is left, really?
I mean, my memory is that Scrooge is then bringing in, like paranormal experts, measuring,
this is not
his
right.
house and his skull to
Right.
see if ghosts could fit in both.
Yeah, sure. Egon comes in.
That's how I remember it.
The PK meter, he's trying to figure out what just happened. Mark, we've got a Nintendo Direct to discuss, so there shall be no further talk of Christmas Carol or Ghostbusters or Beetlejuice. And instead, we just want to shout out our Patreon, patreon.com/Nintendo Cartridge Society. If you would like to support us there by giving money, we appreciate it. If you give at the 8-bit or 16-bit levels, you are entitled to these monthly episodes of miniseries that we put out. We've done NCS Detective Club, where we're talking about detective shows of television history, and then we are currently in the midst of NCS Goes Broadway. Soon, Mark, we're going to be discussing The Music Man.
That's right. I'm excited for that one.
It's going to be a good one. Is there a game in the lineup of the Nintendo Direct that made me think of Music Man? You bet.
Yeah, yes, there is.
76 trombone champions, you bet. But so check that out if any of that is of interest to you. We will also be posting a poll in the Patreon in pretty short order to decide what our next mini-series will be. So if you are part of the Patreon at any level, you can participate in that.
Yeah, so thank you so much to all of our patrons. Also, thank you to everyone who is listening. And whether you're a patron or not, you can join our Discord. Our Discord is open to everybody.
Yes, all you gotta do is email us at nintendocartridgesociety@gmail.com, and we will send you an invitation. You can jump in there, talk with all the people who were also excited or confused or angry or happy about the most recent Nintendo Direct. It's a bunch of good people who are interested in talking about Nintendo stuff basically all the time. So get in there, join that. Mark, let's talk about the September 2023 Nintendo Direct. "40 minutes of information on games coming to the Nintendo Switch." When they pitched it 24 hours before the Direct aired, they said it was going to be focused on games coming out in winter, coming out this winter, right?
Yeah, that's right. Mostly, and we know now.
We know
not to believe.
We know
this
not
fully.
to trust it.
Yeah, we know that it. Like, yes, 90% of what we'll see.
Yes,
but it made sense, right? Like, Well, okay. I feel like we should just like get into it. What did you think of this Nintendo Direct?
I thought this was a weird Nintendo Direct, and some of the like two of the kind of like megaton pieces from this were teased in the previous Direct. I'm referring to Princess Peach Showtime and Luigi's Mansion 2 HD that we had gotten like that they told us were going to happen, and we just got to like see more of them in this one. And well, maybe the previous Direct needed them. I don't know if it needed both of them to juice that Direct to like make it a full fat, like, feeling real and like an E3 substitution kind of thing. But it made them feel here like it was just sort of checking in on things we already knew about.
Yeah. I felt like it was on the one hand, it was like the Nintendo Direct that I expected.
Yes.
Where it's just like, okay, cool. Like we know a lot of this year. We know that we needed to get a couple of things like dates on things through like March, kind of like no Nintendo's first quarter, because we typically do. But on the other hand, it also just felt like, oh yeah, we are just more confirmation that we are coming to the end of the original Switch's life.
Well, I mean that is definitely true, but there's a weird, not a weird, it's like we commented on it I think in the last two Directs, but there is such a focus on porting of older games, and like from kind of all walks of Nintendo life. Like there are games being pulled forward from the DS, there are games being pulled forward from the GBA, from the GameCube. Like we're kind of just like taking from all these different like parts of Nintendo's past and being like representing them now, but not through the normal channels of like the NSO libraries.
Right. I mean, to me, it feels like the playbook of, hey, we don't want to have another Wii situation where there's nothing to play at the end of the console's life because we're so focused on the next generation. But we are so focused on the next generation that, we are remaking a lot of games and things like that. It almost, and maybe it's because I'm so focused on this being probably the last Nintendo Direct that is wholly focused on the Switch as we know it today. But it just feels like the 3DS's game plan all over again, where it's like, oh, we're getting like a Luigi's Mansion remake, and we're getting
remakes of Mario RPGs.
Exactly. And like instead of Mario and Luigi RPGs, we're getting like Mario and Donkey Kong, these games. You know what I mean? Like also from the GBA. It feels like a replay of the Nintendo 3DS end of life to me, happening in real time. Plus some other stuff that because we know, let's assume that, and whether this is true or not, we'll find out in the future, but let's just assume that there is new hardware, let's say by the middle of next year.
Right.
It's when that hardware comes out, one, there's a good chance it's going to be backwards compatible.
I think it almost has to be.
And then two, it's not like, historically Nintendo has been releasing a new console and then said, and no more games for the old one ever. There's always been some amount of crossover.
Right.
And so,
and a lot of that is driven by Pokemon and like Kirby, right? Like we'll see a lot of those kinds of games. But I honestly think that like this console like generation straddling is going to be different. I think it has to be different, right? I think we'll get like big first party Nintendo stuff that runs on both. I mean, anything that runs on Switch is going to run on the successors as well. But I think there'll be maybe a full like half of their lineup will continue to run on the old system too.
I think you're right, and I think that I agree with you that I felt like this was a weird kind of like lumpy one. Like it was 7 a.m. Pacific time. I had
been awake for 2 hours already.
Yeah, I had not been. I was been awake for like 5 minutes. I was still under, the blankets, but had my iPad propped up and was just like laying on my side. And there was in the middle there was a little bit where I could maybe fell asleep the first time I watched it.
I mean, here's the thing about every Nintendo Direct, and which there's always something or a couple somethings in there where I'm like, what is this? What's happening? Why are you showing this to me? And it happens every time. And it's the weird brew of Nintendo Direct that I love, where I see like a huge first party Nintendo thing featuring Mario and whatever, or it's the return of Nintendo property that we haven't seen in decades, right next to like some crappy looking like tactics also ran kind of game. And it's just like, or a farming game or something. And it's just like, yeah, that's what these are. Like, there are titans of the industry from Nintendo, and then like little garbage that I don't care about.
It is interesting seeing, we had the Super Mario Direct not that long ago, and then we had this video with Miyamoto and Charles Martinet, and it made me realize how modular these Nintendo Directs must be, where they're,
Totally.
up to the last minute maybe swapping things in and out, and they're just like obviously like pre-produced segments that can kind of just go anywhere.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the Super Mario Wonder thing feels like it could have just been lifted out of this and decided it was going to be its own 15 minutes.
Absolutely. And like to put that, if that like content, maybe not all 15 minutes of it, but if there was a 10-minute version of it, and we exercised a couple like, do we need the Prince of Persia, like the Lost Crown? Like, do we need that in here? Like just to exercise a couple of these things, like it would have been like perfectly at home in here in like a 45-minute direct or something.
All of that said, like there is still quite a few things in here that I am excited about.
Oh, I'm gonna spend like $400 on this stuff.
but this, I feel like this is the first. I guess like my mind really is turning to what is next, and it feels like all the pieces are falling into place for what is next. So there's stuff in here that I'm really excited to play on Switch, but also theoretically on whatever comes next.
Yeah, and like it's interesting to consider just like the Nintendo heavy hitters as far as franchises and development studios are concerned, because like obviously we're seeing like the Splatoon / Animal Crossing team finishing up what they're doing so they can put out Side Order this spring, and then like what do they do next is whatever's going to be their like flagpole thing on the next system, and like obviously the Zelda team just went, so like that's another one, but like the Mario Kart ARMS team, like that's another one where it's like they're also finishing up their support for the previous thing, so like what do they land with next? We didn't see any intelligence systems in this.
Did we not? Would Thousand Year Door not be intelligence system?
I don't think that, or the Mario versus Donkey Kong. I don't think either of those are. I mean, they may be overseen by the original development teams, but I'm sure they're farming those out.
Yeah. Yeah, and I wonder who's making the Princess Peach game.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get into.
We're now. We're getting too in the weeds here. Yes.
The other thing that before we really get into it that I think is interesting, but it's so difficult to try to divine anything from Nintendo. But I do think it's interesting that the last two Nintendo Directs have been at 7 a.m. Pacific time.
Yeah.
Which is 11 p.m. in Japan.
Yeah.
And it's just like, are they purposefully trying to be more outside of Japan focused? Do you know what I mean?
It's a good question. I mean, like, it's because a huge chunk of their market still is the Japanese audience, right? Like, in particular, this one kicks off with Splatoon 3. Like, that's going to be a bigger deal in Japan than anywhere else. So yeah, I'm not really sure. It's
and obviously worldwide, there's no great time to do it.
Of course,
the last ones I feel like for us have been around like 2 or 3. Like June's was around then, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't know. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe June's was actually earlier as well.
June's may have also been earlier, but like obviously the old E3 schedule is so dictated by when the show floor opens and all of that. So, but that was like a sort of later morning, like a 9 or 10 or something like that. But yeah, I mean, all of which is to say that like I think all the Pokemon presents are always super early in the morning. Sometimes they're at like 6.
That's true.
So yeah, I don't know. It's like you say, there's really no good time to do them worldwide, and Nintendo is a worldwide company. So yeah, they got to go sometime.
Sorry, one last thing.
Yeah,
and then I promise we can talk about the Direct itself.
Right.
Did you notice that the that COVID-19 screen that used to show up before
It's gone.
is gone? And I didn't clock it until I was going back to last September's Direct to remind myself what had been announced in that one. And that was the like farming sim direct.
Yes.
But it's also where we learned Tears of the Kingdom's name and like the release date. Like there was
there's always yes.
Yeah. But it was in that one, and I was like, oh my gosh, that was like a thing, and it wasn't in this one. And so then I went back. The last one to have it was the February Direct from this year.
Oh, interesting.
And then so it had that like because of COVID-19, like a release dates might change thing. But that disclaimer didn't show up in June, and it's not here. So,
so if any of these release dates change, we hold their feet to the fire. They did not give themselves the same disclaimer. That is interesting. That like at some point they must have had a meeting where they're like, "We're done with this thing now, right?"
Yeah, they must. Yeah. Interesting. Hopefully, because I wasted time talking about it. So.
No, I think it is interesting. I'm
you.
interested. So whether or not it was good podcast, I can't tell you. But I liked it. All right, let's go through this thing. We are, as always, going to approach it in order. So that naturally means that we'll be, discussing some of the most exciting things last. But hang with us. I'm sure we're going to have a good conversation all the way through.
So we start off like the cold open, again, kind of another Nintendo Direct classic. And this time it's for Side Order, the Splatoon 3 expansion pass, second wave of DLC, the final wave of DLC. And we find out that it is going to be releasing in spring 2024, which I thought was like it being released later than originally announced, but it was undated.
It was always undated, yeah. But I do think there was a little bit of I know you and I had talked about it on the show that we thought that like the 1 year anniversary mark was like a pretty good time to launch that. That's when we saw things like the Octo expansion for Splatoon 2. So like it sort of just made sense that this would be when that happened. But it seems like they're giving themselves quite a bit more time because spring next year, like that's all the way until like March. That's like 6 months. It's like half a year away.
Yeah. I thought this looked impossibly cool.
I agree. I have fallen off Splatoon 3 pretty hard. Never really got like all the way that like into it. But yeah, the sort of the setup of it is that it seems like it's a little bit of a challenge tower kind of roguelike thing. But the environments are all very like sterile Apple Store meets Portal kind of aesthetic. And yeah, like that you have a palette where you are swapping out colors that change your abilities or your stats or something. I don't know. It seems very cool.
And I am impossibly lost in the lore of like the world of Splatoon.
Yes.
I never played the Splatoon 3 single player. So like what happened there?
Right.
I don't know. But is Pearl a robot? Is she controlling the robot?
It sure seems like Pearl has become a robot.
And there's like this like multicolored Octoline who says she goes way back with Marina. I don't know. It just, but like, aesthetic. I love the world of Splatoon. I think aesthetically it's awesome. The music in like the ominous little bits that we get in here are really cool. I love that it's all set in this like spire of order, which seems to be some sort of factory.
Yeah.
I just thought it was really cool.
Yeah. No, it did seem very cool. Also, like as I don't know if they are still salmonids or whatever the like evil fish things are. As the player was shooting them, there were like numbers popping out of them. So like, is there like some kind of like RPG ish?
Right.
Like, are we gonna see those numbers like change when you like upgrade a thing, or what do those numbers mean exactly? Splatoon is usually very good and deliberate about like keeping numbers off the screen so that you can like just determine that like someone has lower health because it got more ink on them or whatever. And it's just very interesting to see them just straight up applying numbers.
And how does that kind of like feed into what? So the direct is hosted by Shinya Takahashi, and he says that Side Order is being designed to be played over and over again.
Yeah.
And when I saw those numbers and I heard him say
Yes.
that, it's like, yeah, like kind of what you're saying, like RPG-ish. Like, how do those two things come together?
I mean, my speculation, I think I even like just said it as a matter of course when describing this, is that it has like some roguelike qualities where like you're going to have to set your, your palette with whatever colors that give you whatever boosts, and then go in and get as far as you can, earn more points to like get more
that totally
colors,
makes
like,
sense.
and then try it again.
Yeah.
Which would be awesome, like a Splatoon roguelike, in the vein of Salmon Run, is kind of exactly what I want out of a Splatoon game.
Octo expansion was too hard for me.
Yes.
It was just way too hard. I haven't bought this DLC because
neither.
The first piece didn't appeal to me at all, where it was just aesthetic, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I like I said, I love the world of Splatoon. This seems pretty cool. I'll be interested to see what the reviews and impressions are like when it comes out.
There's a lot of time between now and spring, right? Like, and it just based on everything else that's like coming out that was revealed in this direct. Like, I think this may be one of the more attractive things that comes out in like April or whatever. Also, by that point, the money that I spent on Splatoon 3 will be so far in the rearview mirror that it'll be just like spending, $20 for the DLC. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not going to be like,
also,
I spent $80 on this game.
And maybe it'll show up with the Nintendo Switch Online, like Octo Expansion did.
Maybe. I want like.
I mean, that was obviously years after.
That was years after, but yeah. Yep. Interesting. Next up, we get Mario vs. Donkey Kong, a remake.
It's gotta be a remake.
We're pretty sure.
What else would it's going from a GBA game to a Switch?
No, I get that. But like they never call it they say it like a GBA classic is reborn on the Switch or whatever. They don't call it a remake. They don't call it a remaster. It is the game again. It has like some additional like gameplay features or whatever. But like. Yeah, they don't use the language remake.
Yeah, but I feel like that's like a nomenclature thing, and not necessarily because it's not a remake. I think it's. I would be willing to bet a significant amount of money. I'm not doing it, but I'm willing to bet a significant amount of money that it's a remake. What else could it be? The mind reels.
of what else it would be.
Yeah,
and it is likely I think you're right that it is.
What else?
I'm just saying they don't use the language remake. They don't say remaster. They say it's like returns to or like re-envisioned or just something. The language is not remake in the same way that like Metroid Prime remastered or like Luigi's Mansion 2 HD. They're just calling it Mario vs. Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
But seemingly it's a remake of the Game Boy Advance game. Which I just want to jump in a little bit here. I've never actually played Mario vs. Donkey Kong on GBA. Obviously, we both played Donkey Kong 94 on Game Boy, and I've messed around a little bit with the minis games later on, which are sort of like the evolution of the Mario vs. Donkey Kong series. That turns it into a little bit more of like a Lemmings-like, where you're indirectly controlling these little like wind-up Mario characters, multiples of them at once, and just sort of like setting them off on their path, and then either like putting obstacles or like removing obstacles from their path, or like giving them stairs or whatever to get around stuff. This is a like direct control. You're making Mario jump around and do backflips and handstands and stuff like that in a sort of like puzzle platforming setting.
Do you think that Donkey Kong 94, which is a classic Game Boy title, that that Mario vs. Donkey Kong is a sequel to, but mechanically very similar?
Yeah.
Do you think that it was purposefully withheld from Nintendo Switch Online?
Oh, that's interesting.
Because this remake was coming, and do you think that they would time the release of the Game Boy game on Nintendo Switch Online around this as part of like the marketing for it?
Yeah, I don't know.
Or do you think this delays it even longer because?
I mean, I really don't know. It was not listed among the Game Boy games that we were promised back when they showed off the upcoming Game Boy libraries. So I don't even know that it's on their like list of things to release, even though it must be.
Yeah, that would be kind of crazy.
It's a huge game.
Also, I bought it on the Virtual Console on the
Mhm.
Nintendo 3DS before the eShop was shut down. Before it was shut down.
They dragged it out behind the barn.
Yeah, that's right. And I tried to play it, but the Game Boy-ness of it all
A little too Game Boy-y for you.
Yeah, you know, just kind of like the everything just feels a little clunkier. I am actually really looking forward to this.
Yeah.
It's only $50, and
but on the flip side, it's $50.
It's $50, yeah. Well, it better be a remake for $50.
That's true. I'm saying Metroid Prime Remaster was $40.
That's so crazy.
Isn't it weird? There's no rhyme or reason to any of this, of course,
That's
because
true.
the Advance Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp, which is also a remake of a reboot camp of 2 Game Boy Advance games, was $60.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Well, all this is to say, I am excited for this because Donkey Kong 94 is a game that I, in my most recent playthrough, like was showing its age just because of the hardware.
Yeah.
And so but it's the gameplay itself, the mechanics of it are really fun. And so to kind of have a modern version of that, I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah. Well, and also like there's the like pick up and playness of a game like this is beautiful, right? Like I just recently broke up with one of my longtime pick up and play games, Tetris 99. Thank you for your service. I'm not going to play you again for a while. And like this could easily take its place where I've got 20 minutes or something to play a game. I can play a level or two of Mario versus Donkey Kong and have a great time.
Yeah, also seems like it would be fun in local co-op, which will be part of this.
Does sound like
because
fun.
It's like, oh yeah, let's just do a couple of levels, you know, like figure out these puzzles together. I don't know. I am excited for this. I think this was a cool announcement.
I also think it was a cool announcement. I do think that people were primed to be disappointed by a Mario versus Donkey Kong game. Which I don't know is silly. This feels like a especially before the minis are introduced, and at which point they just become like a different game that is also, I think, still interesting. But like this is a Mario puzzle platformer. Like it's gonna be fun. Interesting to see that they are basically just using the old new Super Mario Brothers style animation and models, and even like the icons are the same that like you would see in those games. For this one. So
yeah, it's another one that it'll be interesting to see if it was developed by Nintendo or who is developing it and Nintendo's just overseeing it. Because again, it feels like, hey, we're at the end of this console's life.
Right.
We're putting these like remakes out and our A teams are focused elsewhere.
Yeah.
Up next was Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, a side-scrolling action-adventure platforming game releasing January 18th of next year. I thought the full title of this on the screen they showed was funny. Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, a Ubisoft original.
That's the whole name of it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if...
A Star Wars story.
But I thought this looked cool.
Okay.
I know before you were saying you could have done without it. There's some other games in here that I was like...
Absolutely. That was the first one that caught my eye, just like looking down the list. But yeah, no, I mean, we've got a Contra game coming up. So, yeah.
And nary an alien gut bucket to be found.
That was the joke I was going to use when we got there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Contra Hardcore, of course, part of a Nintendo Direct.
2018, maybe?
A long time ago. Well, I don't even remember what the verb was, but do something to your alien gut bucket, and it just tickled Mark just right. So it's never left our vernacular.
I'm the only one who remembers that trailer from
I remember,
E3.
Mark.
That's right. No, you're right. We're in this together.
So Prince of Persia: Lost Crown is this is something that you think you might be interested in? Or?
I thought it looked whoa. I thought it looked cool. I thought it looked kind of cool.
I don't think I'm putting words in your mouth to say you think you might be interested in it.
But yes, if it reviews well, I would be interested in this.
No kind of price point or anything on that, right?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next up is Horizon Chase 2. It's a racing. This is all kind of part of a. Or right here, they started a little bit of like a. Here are some games that you can play on Switch now. This game available now. It's a racing game with unlockables. You upgrade your car, 4-player multiplayer, both local and online. This one kind of fell out of my brain the second the trailer ended.
Yeah. Up next was Super Crazy Rhythm Castle, which releases November 14th. It's a rhythm adventure game from Konami. There's 30 different music tracks, including tracks from classic Konami games, up to 4-player competitive and cooperative multiplayer, local and online. And the online, that feels bold to do a
for a
like
rhythm
game. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't. I mean, it also didn't look like it was performing particularly well. Like it seemed kind of, and maybe it was just like the animation of the characters or something, but looked kind of framey. I don't know. This one looked bad to me. It's interesting to see. I think we have 2 Konami games in this direct.
Yeah, that's right.
The other one being the Contra game that I think looks bad. But yeah, just it kind of nice to see like Konami back in the mix here. Next up is Spy Anya, Spy Cross Anya. This Operation Memories is the subtitle here. Coming out in 2024. Is Anya like an anime series or something? Okay.
Well,
can you?
And I
Yeah.
am saying yes, it is. Based on the Googling I did to be like, what is this?
Yeah.
Because and maybe it's really popular. I really don't know. The way that it's presented, where there's no explanation for Anya or the world, it's just like, oh, hey, it's Anya. And she's doing the thing she always does, which is create photo memories to build photo diaries with her dog that's wearing like a bow tie or whatever.
And maybe the dog talks.
Maybe the dog talks. Yeah, it was presented in such a nonchalant way that I was like, oh, this has got to be like a thing already.
A known
that exists.
quantity, sure, yeah. But anyway, it comes out at some point 2024. I don't really know anything about it.
And now we get Super Mario RPG, a little bit more information because the game comes out not that far from now, November 17th. And the first thing I thought was, this game looks adorable.
Yeah.
Mallow with his pants.
Yeah.
Too cute.
Yeah. This little squat Mario model. Even like Gino looks cute. Like everyone in this game looks adorable.
I'm really excited. I would love Amiibo.
I know. Give me some Amiibo.
Yeah, so here's what I'm imagining.
Yeah.
A thing that does not and will never exist, but the idea of it brings me a lot of joy. Is, remember those dioramas at E3 2019 for Link's Awakening?
Yes.
I'm picturing dioramas like that, but for Mario RPG in this style.
I want that badly.
Yeah. That's it. Just a thought exercise.
Yeah, that's it.
Not something that'll ever exist.
I mean, seeing the characters and just like talking about like, I wish there were Amiibo for these guys. They make like little action figures, right? That are just like 2 inches tall. If we had like a set of those for Super Mario RPG, you get like 2 in a pack, and then like there's still Amiibos, but like they're little guys instead of like big full size Amiibo. I think that'd be cool. Mostly, I just want a little Gino and a little Mallow I can put at my desk. Then they have matching stands. Like, come on.
We also learned that there's a couple of new things in the game. So, perfect attacks will damage all enemies at once.
Yeah. So the game previously had a system by which you could hit the attack button as you're landing the blow to deal a little bit more damage.
And if you're playing Sea of Stars, it is that,
exactly
basically.
Like that, yes. And it also works defensively too. But it seems like there is now an even like more precise button press that you can do to make attacks hit all the enemies at once.
And then when you do those like when you time those attacks, those like timed attacks, they give a little more damage. They also are filling up a gauge.
Yes.
And when that gauge is full, you're able to do triple moves, which are different depending on which characters you have in your party.
Right. There are 5 characters total in the game as it appears on the Super NES. I assume it's going to be the same here because otherwise it seems like pretty 1-for-1, right? But so there's a bunch of different configurations. Mario always has to be in the party. But I'll be excited to see what those all look like and how powerful they are. I like watching the gameplay footage here. It seemed like the scale of the numbers was all like a little bit higher than before. I remember thinking that one of the things I liked about Mario RPG was that it just like kept its economy of like hit points and damage points like pretty low. But there was a like hit everyone attack that Mario did, like a basic attack that dealt like 500 damage, and I was like, this is either like end game high level Mario stuff, or the scale of damage has changed a little.
Oh, interesting. Because one of the things that they also show off is that it seems like in the post game, after you've completed the game, you can replay boss battles, and the battles are going to be way harder. And so that also shows the enemies doing it like 999 damage, stuff like that.
Right. And I wonder if there's a change to the level cap too. The level cap in the original game is 30. So yeah, if you can grow your characters beyond that, it would be cool to challenge harder and harder bosses. They make a point of showing this in the trailer. Mario in Monstro Town going up to a mysterious door behind which is like an eldritch boss from the Final Fantasy universe. And that same like line of dialogue where it's like something, a stone shines, whatever, I forget exactly what it is, but it's the same language that's in the original game. So any sort of thought that character would not be present here, I'm tossing it out the window.
It does seem like, especially if why would you make a point of it?
Why would you make a point of showing it?
Yeah. We also learned that you are going to be able to swap between classic SNES music and the updated tracks on the fly, which is pretty cool.
Yep. Yeah, and it was in the demonstration video that I saw of it, it was unclear to me if it's also changing the sound effects, because they didn't show Mario like jumping or doing anything like that before they switched it to the classic, and then when he jumped on the pipe, it was the sound of like the classic. I don't know if there's like I'm tracking this. I don't know if it's part of it or not.
Interesting.
Yeah.
The other thing that we learned, I think, from the Japanese website is that there's going to be an easy mode, so you'll be able to like an easier difficulty to the game as well.
Game is notoriously easy, so I don't know if it needs that, but I mean, it's still a turn-based RPG, so like if you want to turn your brain off and just enjoy the story, you should be able to do that. Next up, Mark, I found this very interesting. Another Code Recollection coming out January 19th, 2024. This is a bundle, effectively, of two obscure DS games, or at least they feel obscure to me.
One obscure DS game, and then one
yes,
Wii sequel that was never released outside of Japan.
Right, and so
or at least not in North America. Maybe it was released in Europe. I don't know.
But they're basically like point and click kind of adventure games.
I think they're less. So I never played. It was called Trace Memory on the Nintendo DS in America, and but the title in Japan has always been Another Code, and again, I think maybe in Europe as well. So, but I remember the reviews for Trace Memory being very good. I don't think it's point and click. I think it's more like puzzle gamey than that.
Yeah, it was described as point and click on the game's Wikipedia page. Which this is the games were published by Nintendo and developed by Sing. I don't know exactly. Capital C and then ING. And they also made Hotel Dusk, Room 215, which is another DS game that is like puzzly, adventure-y.
And I could be getting this wrong, but I think Hotel Dusk is part of, in other places like in Japan, part of like the Jake Hunter series.
Sure,
but it's like the one entry we got here. Another like of these point and click adventure games, like mystery games that also reviewed well, but I never played. This all just feels very Famicom Detective Club to me.
100%, yes. I think we need to play this game.
Yeah, I'm excited for this.
Yeah, okay, great.
Yeah, I'm excited for this, and I think it's interesting that it's taking the January spot. It's another, previously that was Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury. It was New Super Mario Brothers U Deluxe.
Yep. Fire Emblem
Engage.
Yeah.
And so again, the fact that Another Code is getting that spot makes me be like, oh yeah, we're coming to the end of this generation.
But I mean, but the fact that it is analogous to the Famicom Detective Club thing is only more perplexing, because it's like that came out in like year 2 of the Switch, right?
No. Maybe it did. 2019. Because was it pre or post?
It was pre-pandemic
Okay,
because you
yeah.
were still living in your place in Koreatown.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. We recorded an episode about it together, so it must have been.
Yes, so it was pre-pandemic.
Yeah. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and I think it was probably like October, November or something because then we spent a long time planning for the NCS Miss
No,
Carol.
that was 2021.
What?
Yeah. So
Wait.
it was like
When did we record it?
when we
then?
were vaccinated, I guess. Like
Huh.
the summer of 2021.
Okay, so it's
Because the
like
remakes
the
were
fourth
released
year of
May 14th, 2021.
Oh.
And they were eShop only
right.
releases.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's the case for this. But basically it's like, to me, it's like if they were putting Famicom Detective Club, so glad they remade those games.
Yeah. me
Loved
too.
it a bunch.
Yes.
Super weird to me if they released that in the January spot, right?
Yeah,
but that is what is happening here with another code.
Mark, thanks for checking me on that. I was so convinced I was right, but you got me. You got it. Anyway, this seems super cool and like weird and strange, and I'm looking forward to experiencing it on Switch in January.
Now we got some more details on the Untitled Princess Peach game that they teased in the June Direct, and it's a big blowout on Princess Peach Showtime, which is releasing March 22nd, 2024.
Which I think will be a little bit worse and a little bit more like dumbed down than Princess Peach HBO.
Yes.
Sorry.
We got a little bit about the plot,
Mhm.
which is a loyal toad presents Princess Peach a flyer for a show at a theater, at the Sparkle Theater.
Sparkle Theater.
And so they go to the show,
Mhm.
and the theater is overrun by Wicked Grape and the Sour Bunch.
Okay, so Wicked Grape and the Sour Bunch, perfect. No,
Beautiful.
There's no way to punch that up. Is her name Wicked Grape, or is her name just Grape and Wicked is a descriptor?
Oh, I think her name is Wicked Grape.
Okay. I love that we're getting sort of an evil version of or like an evil Peach character, and she has another fruit name, like Peach Grape.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about that. But
I
yes,
love it.
Yeah, just the entry of a canonical evil princess or royalty or something.
Yep.
Yeah, that's so good. Also, I feel so bad for the loyal toad who recommended they go to this show, because isn't that everybody's nightmare?
Yeah.
That you're telling your friends hey, let's go to this restaurant, I've heard it's good.
Right.
Let's go to this movie, I've heard it's good. And then it gets overrun by an evil queen and her minions.
Right, which is pretty bad. I feel like in real life, the biggest danger of recommending someone go to a play is they're gonna pull you up on stage,
or it's just bad.
or it's just bad.
Yeah.
But that's okay. We've all seen bad theater. I think that's okay. The last thing you want is for it to be overrun by a gang called the Sour Bunch. Maybe you do want that. I don't know.
And so at the theater, Princess Peach meets Stella, who's the theater guardian, a ribbon, and it seems like that's Peach's normal attack.
Right.
But then there are some things that Stella is not powerful enough to take care of. And that is where these transformations come in. And these transformations are so good. I wish we had known this when we were pitching our new Smash
I know.
roster, because we went with Sporty Peach, which is fine.
It's good.
But these would be awesome.
This is better.
So
yeah.
the transformations, we see 4 of them, and they promise more. Sword Fighter Peach and the costumes. I mean, the costumes.
The costumes.
Sword Fighter Peach, so good. Detective Peach, excellent. Patisserie Peach, my personal favorite. And Kung Fu Peach, also very good.
Kung Fu Peach looks incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it seems like each one of these costumes or transformations or whatever doesn't just give her new abilities. It almost seems like it introduces a new gameplay style.
Yeah, and that is the part that I find a little bit, it was confusing to me in the trailer, being
I agree.
What is this game? How does this game play?
Right.
I still don't understand, because every time she transforms, so there are different plays, and each play she transforms into a different thing, and it changes the gameplay. And that's just a lot to wrap my mind around. I still don't understand what this game is.
Me neither.
But it looks really cool.
Uh-huh.
For whatever reason, I feel like there was Super Princess Peach on the Nintendo DS, but that never really felt like anything to me. Princess Peach Showtime, just even the way the logo is, it's like, oh yeah, I could see where instead it's like Princess Peach, another thing in the future. Like it feels like they are
Yes.
preparing for a franchise in a way that Super Princess Peach never felt that way.
No, well, and Super Princess Peach was also just like a platformer with like a twist, right? And this does not seem like that. This seems like they are building a different style of game around Peach, which obviously they, was something they did for Luigi with Luigi's Mansion, something they did for Toad with Captain Toad Treasure Tracker. And I know Captain Toad is a specific Toad; he's not just Toad. But like, this is sort of like the quintessential like, oh yeah, start branching out. Like you can make new franchises. Luigi's Mansion 3 was a like 10 million seller or whatever, and the series wasn't a blockbuster before that. But by the time you get to the third one and it's on Switch, it is a blockbuster. So, it's even when the like new IP or the new franchises are coming up out of existing franchises, it's still cool to see something that feels like it's new.
And it's also nice, in my opinion, for Princess Peach to kind of get her due. Because like
Totally.
you said, my God, Toad had a franchise.
Toad! It's one game. They released it on everything.
They released on everything, yeah. So yeah, March 22nd, so not that long before this will be out.
I'm very excited about that. And then on the flip side of that, Saga Emerald Beyond was revealed for release in 2024. This is a Saga game.
It's a new Saga game. One thing so they go through the 6 heroes.
And you detailed them all here.
The reason I
detailed.
You know. Okay, so I'll run through them.
Yeah.
Young man who fights with sentient puppets. Sure. A witch disguised as a schoolgirl.
I assume also that means that he's not like punching sentient puppets. I assume the sentient puppets are fighting for him.
I think that's right.
Right.
I think that's right. A witch disguised as a schoolgirl, and this is where. And look. Hashtag not all anime. I know it's true, but to me, these words in this combination are like, oh,
red flag.
You are doing this so you can have the schoolgirl do really fan servicey things, but still be like, no, it's fine. She's like 1,000,000 years old.
She's a witch. It's okay. Yeah.
A crime fighting duo, great.
A crime fighting duo who, by the way, it seems like maybe they're also like angel hunters. Like they don't seem like they don't know Bayonetta. Do you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean.
Okay, great.
Also, they count as the 2 characters
right.
of the 6. A songstress mech who lost her voice and body. I mean, that's good.
Yeah, that one is genuinely good.
And then a king of darkness who was recently reawakened.
Not interested.
But anyways, like Saga fans are eating. There's another game coming up that is basically Saga, but I don't really have much else to say about this.
I thought this one looked bad. Like I think the character designs in game and the sort of like navigation within the game looked kind of mobile gamey. I don't know. I was thoroughly unimpressed by this one.
Up next was Tomb Raider 1 through 3 remastered, starring Lara Croft, releasing February 14th, 2024. And a couple of weeks ago, we were wondering, hey, what's Aspyr up to now that they're not porting Star Wars games?
Right. Now that they are not making good on their promise to restore cut content to Knights of the Old Republic 2, and now that they are not remaking Knights of the Old Republic 1.
Well, it turns out at least some of the people there are doing this Tomb Raider remastered. And there you go, remastered right on the tin. So you can switch.
You'll find that they're usually good about saying something. Remastered, remake, something.
I think so. What I think is that the Game Boy Advance game is basically like so old at this point that they're just presenting it as new instead of, like, I mean, they said, hey, it's a remake of like the Game Boy Advance game, but it's not like with Luigi's Mansion 2 or even Metroid Prime. You could say that it's a remaster because they are using like the bones of it, especially Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon. Like that doesn't look great, like graphically to me. Like it's like, oh yeah, that's an HD title.
Right. We'll get to Luigi's Mansion.
But I think I see what you're saying. The difference,
that they're, and also just like kind of hoping that they just get away with it.
Right. I mean, the game has to be over 20 years old.
Yeah,
so
it is. It's a 2004 game, I believe.
Because I wonder if Thousand Year Door is just Thousand Year Door. Or is it
great question. Because I think when we get there, I believe the name of the game is just Thousand Year Door.
But Tomb Raider 1 through 3 remastered is you can switch between upgraded graphics and the original like polygon visuals, which I think is a neat little touch. I wish they would have done that for some of the Star Wars games. I think it would have made it a little more playable.
Yeah. That feels right. The updated graphics though are still pretty like old and janky.
Yeah, for sure.
So, are you a Tomb Raider guy?
I'm not.
Yeah, I'm not really either.
I didn't own a PlayStation, and so I tried to get into these when I had borrowed my friend's PlayStation 2 and was playing old like PS1 and PlayStation 2 games, but it's just never clicked for me.
Yeah, I mean, even just like an improved frame rate on these things may help them to actually be playable. Well, I guess we'll see on February 14th. And then next up, we've got Detective Pikachu Returns. Another like they reminded us that this game existed on the last Nintendo Direct, right?
Well, so
or was that the Pokemon Presents?
No, so I think you're right. I think it was the Pokemon Presents, and that was the first time we had heard about it in years.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So maybe this was just for like Gen Pop Nintendo audiences and not the Pokemon freaks. Game's still coming out on October 6th. I gotta say, this is the first time that the graphics of this game didn't look awful to me. That like and I don't know if they're just like being selective about it or if the game is finally running at the rate that they wanted it to. Pikachu and Tim Goodman solve cases while searching for Tim's father. And ally Pokemon help you like break blocks and see through walls and all this other kind of stuff. It's a Detective Pikachu game.
Yep. I was gonna do the plot of this. I'm like, was that the plot of the movie?
It's kind of the plot of the first game too.
Oh, okay.
Is like,
so they're still looking for him.
Tim is always looking for his father. Yeah.
Okay, got it. I gotta say, the ending of Detective Pikachu the movie, I hated the resolution of that.
Yeah,
I won't spoil it here, but I thought it sucked.
It's also like it raises more questions than it answers.
It's disturbing. Okay, up next was Trombone Champ, which went viral, I would say, earlier this year,
maybe last year.
Yeah. But this is the like play a trombone as good as you can, but everything in the game is going to make it hard for you to do that.
Yeah, it's a rhythm game where you control it basically via analog control instead of digital control. Like one of the things that makes like Guitar Hero possible is that like you're pushing buttons, right? But this is asking you to like position a thing in just the right place to get the pitches right.
Which is so funny because on Switch it has gyro controls.
Yes.
But then also a control scheme using the IR motion controller, like motion camera on the right.
Genius.
Joy-Con. It's so funny.
It makes it so that like you're basically playing it like a theremin. Like this is how you play a theremin, is that there's like an antenna and like the distance that your hand is from it determines like the radio waves that bounce between the thing in your hand, and it changes the pitch. That's how this is going to control with the IR sensor.
It's also a great day. This direct was a great direct for people who love the IR motion camera. It includes local multiplayer, and okay, when this first hit in probably like last year or whenever it was on PC, I thought it was so funny. When it appeared here, I was like, is this joke played out? But then they had...
Then you saw the 4-player?
Then I saw the 4 players doing like Funiculi, Funicula.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like,
You're back
no,
on board.
this is still good. This is still funny.
It's still funny. It's available now. Did you have any a chance to check out how much it costs?
No, I don't know.
I'm gonna look if you want to move us on to the next game.
Yeah, next is Battle Crush. Oh, right. Okay, so this is releasing spring 2024, first for consoles on Nintendo Switch. This is the online battle royale brawler, free to play. There's characters based on different mythologies, and there's a beta test coming up next month, so in October 2023.
Yeah, this is one that this is where I think probably where you started to fall back asleep.
Yeah.
Trombone Champ is $14.99.
Okay. I'll just go ahead and plow through War Tales, which is available now. It's as a timed console exclusive. This is an open world tactical RPG with a more realistic art style. I don't really have anything.
I don't
to
have
add
anything
to this.
about this either.
Here we go. Get your alien gut buckets ready because Contra Operation Galuga is releasing early 2024. The reason I think this... Look, Contra has never meant anything to me. I think when the NES Classic Edition was released, you and I played
Contra
the first
3
one.
Is on there or something.
Or like Super C or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Is like we played some of that. together. But I think that this is developed by Way Forward, and they're good at what they do. So if you are into Contra games, I could see how you are like looking forward to this one.
Yeah, totally.
There's a variety of difficulty options, new weapons, new enemies, super attacks, and 4-player co-op mode, which seems like it would be absolutely chaotic.
Here's the thing about Way Forward is that like they are good, but generally one of the things I like about them is like they have this more like anime-y, like hand-drawn animation style that's just like totally not in this game.
Right. Yeah. They're definitely honoring the Contra look for better, for worse.
Yeah. For worse. The note that I added to the show notes here is this looked awful to me. Next up, we got Unicorn Overlord. Which do we give out awards for best name of a game? Because I think
the Cardies are coming up in just a couple of months.
Oh, great point, Mark. Write this down. Unicorn Overlord comes out March 8th, 2024. It is being touted as the rebirth of tactical fantasy RPGs.
Yeah, wow.
Which in a universe where Fire Emblem exists is a bold claim. It is coming from Atlas and Vanillaware. So like, Atlas being the Shin Megami Tensei and Persona studio, and Vanillaware also having a good pedigree. Seems like this is playing with a lot of the same tools that the like Tactics Ogre games played around with, but is also something totally different. So a cool like anime style.
Yeah, it has that very like Vanillaware look to it, and the characters move. Have I played a Vanillaware game? I don't know. I always think of, and this is probably from the PS3 era, maybe even whatever Odin Sphere released on. That is to me the quintessential like Vanillaware game. Like their games are so artistically beautiful, like the aesthetics of them. This is one where I was falling asleep until it was like, oh, like Vanillaware. I should like look at this a little closer, and it doesn't appeal to me.
Right.
It seems really generic. I know they're touting it as like the rebirth of tactical fantasy RPGs, but it looks really generic to me, other than like aesthetically.
I mean, I'm gonna keep my eye on this thing because like it does look like Atlas taking a swing at like Fire Emblem, and I like Fire Emblem, and I tolerate Atlas from time to time. I don't know. It's if it reviews well, I think this could be a like cool kind of sleeper hit. And now we can talk about Luigi's Mansion 2.
All right, so this is one that was also teased at the June 2023 Direct, and to my mind, also straight out of the Nintendo 3DS End of Life playbook, where we got a Luigi's Mansion remake on that system. Here we are with Luigi's Mansion 2, and if you want to know how much effort they're putting into this, the title, Luigi's Mansion 2 HD.
They're losing part of the title. It used to be called Dark Moon.
Yeah, and now it's
not.
It's not a remaster. It's not like it's just
HD.
It's just HD, and I gotta say, it looks
you can tell
bad.
Well,
it looks like a 3DS game that has been HD'd up to Switch.
Here's the thing. Sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. Like there were shots in the thing where like I didn't notice jaggedy edges and like low polygon counts. And I think the Luigi model is closer to the model they used in Luigi's Mansion 3 than they used in Dark Moon.
Oh, interesting.
But there's just a lot of these like oh yeah, that door is 5 polygons.
I'm hoping there's no price on this yet. We know that it's coming summer 2024, so it's not up for pre-order or anything.
Weird time to release a Luigi's Mansion game.
This is one that I guess they told us in June that it was coming in 2024. But this is one that I was like, oh, maybe they'll just shadow drop it. Like maybe it'll just come out now. But I hope it's not $60. It doesn't look like $60 of game.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But I mean, they are adding. Or I guess I don't know. There are multiplayer
the 3DS
modes.
game. So the 3DS game had multiplayer.
Yeah.
But I don't know if these are the same multiplayer modes. I feel like they've got to be, or at least very similar, because again, the effort put into this title doesn't seem like all that much. So I'd be surprised if they are creating whole new multiplayer modes, but maybe they are.
Do you think they're going to be introducing a feature in the HD version of Luigi's Mansion 2 that will feature prominently in Luigi's Mansion 4?
Ooh, that would be cool.
Like they
Like
did with the
Gooigi.
remake. Yeah, because Gooigi is present in Luigi's Mansion remake on the 3DS.
That could be cool. Maybe we will find out something about that. Because I assume we'll get more trailers and stuff for Luigi's Mansion 2 HD before it drops.
And we're pretty sure Gooigi doesn't exist in this game.
We're pretty sure, but again, maybe that's a surprise. Maybe they're like
he is a time
introducing-
travel canonically.
Exactly. So maybe Luigi will like appear. Maybe that's the reason to remake this game.
Yeah.
Is to get Luigi into it.
Yeah, oops, all Gooigi.
Maybe
the fourth game will be Luigi's Mansion 4.
Oh, yes. Yes, please. So kind of like how Mario Land turned into a Wario series.
Yeah, totally.
Maybe that is what's happening with Luigi's Mansion.
Yeah.
Against Luigi's will, Luigi is just like, Mario's just going to start referring to Luigi as his brother.
Whoa.
They're just it'll just be like, Luigi who? Luigi never existed.
Wow. Yeah, and then it's like the newer Star Trek movies, right? It's just the Kelvin timeline. So yeah, this will come out, and this is the furthest out game that we've seen. Right, summer 2024 is a long time, and about when I expect that we'll have a clear image of what the next Switch is.
If it's not out already.
Yeah,
there are a couple of things in here that are just 2024, like Thousand Year Door is.
Yeah,
but as far as like time frame, I think this is the furthest out we go.
Yep. Then next up, we take a little break from games for a second because we got to learn about the Nintendo Museum. That is, it's in Japan, so it'll maybe be a fun thing to visit someday. Who knows?
Yeah, this is one that they presented it as a thing that we all knew about, and it was announced in 2021. So I'm assuming we talked about it at some point. But
it was announced as the Nintendo Gallery.
Yes, and it was previously a manufacturing plant for Nintendo for a long time of like Hanafuda cards and stuff like that. And then also it was used as a service center for many years where like console repairs would be made and stuff like that. Eventually a new factory was made and they moved. And so they are turning this into a Nintendo museum. They're saying it'll open by March of 2024 and that they are going to display a wide variety of products from Nintendo's history. And I think I am so glad that they are doing this.
Yes.
Because we've talked in the past, like Nintendo has internally all of this stuff. They keep, they have really meticulous
and they trot
archives.
it out every now and then.
Yes.
Like the release of the original Super Mario Maker was like a time when they really brought out, design documents, hand-drawn level designs from Super Mario Brothers 1. On graph paper, right? So like, yeah, if this is an opportunity to see inside the Nintendo vault, it makes me super excited and jealous that I have a hard time imagining a scenario where I get to go and see it.
Well, and it just makes me so happy, that Nintendo is doing this. It feels like another piece of the puzzle of Nintendo as a company transitioning to the next generation of like, how does Nintendo present itself?
Yeah.
It is still very like secretive and curated, but as it moves to the next generation, I think it is also more looking at its past and being like, how do we like preserve that and make it a part of Nintendo while we are still able to like move forward, if that makes sense.
Yeah, which is also like the theme of this direct, right? Like we're talking remakes and HD versions and games that we're just re-releasing under the same name that are probably the exact same game as they were before. So I mean it's it is both backwards and forwards looking at the same time in a way that feels like responsible to the gaming history and to like preservation, at least if not on like a commercially available side, on a like sharing it with people side.
Up next, we got a few Amiibo announcements.
Amiibo updates, kind of, right?
Yeah, that's right.
We see the Zelda and Ganondorf Amiibo have a release date now. It's November 3rd. I have pre-ordered them already. Pre-orders are available on Best Buy. Then Noah and Mio from Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Those amiibo, I think, were teased somewhere else.
Yeah, I had
previously.
no memory of them. So
Their characters I don't know from a game I didn't play. So those are going to come out on January 19th. Pre-order is not yet available for those. And then Sora.
yeah, they did it.
Yeah.
It had been so long since Sora was announced, and there had been no whisper for as the final fighter in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, that there had been no whisper of an amiibo, and the fact that it was never mentioned. Because sometimes in like the Sakurai Presents,
Right.
he would
He'll
mention
say, like,
amiibo or show it off or something.
Additional amiibo are under development. Like, not even showing it off, but just being like, we're working on it. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, and so it's like, well, could they not license it because there's like Disney's involved and Square Enix and like all of that? But they did it. It's coming in 2024, and I love that they're like everybody's here for the amiibo too.
Right.
Yep. And which is pretty incredible.
It's pretty incredible. I gotta say, it was fun to just have like the one holdout of like, we're never gonna get that amiibo, and now we're getting it. Truly the end of the Switch era, right? Yeah, is this what's so weird is like I find myself like attracted to this amiibo simply because of its impossibility, right? Like, I have no love for the Kingdom Hearts franchise, and I have maybe never played as the character in Smash Ultimate, but I'm kind of like, he's an impossible little thing. He would be a cool figure to own.
Yeah, no, I totally know what you mean.
Next up, F-Zero 99.
This looks fun. I have downloaded.
Yes.
It's available now, but I haven't had a chance to dive in.
And it is exclusive to Nintendo Switch Online subscribers, but free to you if you do that. It is what it sounds like. It's a battle royale F-Zero game where you are racing against 98 other players. And it's kind of unclear to me from the video how exactly you eliminate other players. But it's all filled with all kinds of like risk reward, use a boost, lose some health, like kind of things.
And it seems like you eliminate players by just like like you said, risk and reward, like smashing into them, forcing them into like the guardrails so they lose power, like all that kind
but
of stuff.
There's got to be some part of like the racing that's part of it too, right? Like,
I don't know. I haven't checked it out yet.
Yeah,
seems like 99 people on an F-Zero track is going to be so chaotic in the beginning.
Absolutely. But that was also, I forget which one of the F-Zero games it was, but there's one of them where like you are racing in just like a huge horde of racers. And even in the original on Super NES, there were all these like other carts that weren't part of the race itself that were just like there. So it's always been kind of a crowded game. But yeah, this seems super cool. Pac-Man 99 left the service or is leaving the service.
Yeah, I think left the service.
Yeah. So this is basically taking its place. And like, we're always asking for like a thing for F-Zero to do, and always kind of asking for a new 99 game. And it's cool that this can like fulfill both.
Yeah. Yeah, excited to check it out. Seems like it could be a lot of fun. Up next, we got 2 League of Legends story games. Bandle Tale, a League of Legends story coming sometime in 2024.
These were both League of Legends
yes.
games? Okay.
Uh-huh.
All right.
And the art style of this one kind of reminded me of Contact on Nintendo DS.
Okay.
So the trailer for Bandle Tale, it wasn't until the end that they're like a League of Legends story. And I have not like played League of Legends for 9 years, like a decade maybe now. Like, it's been a long time. But the characters are really cool, and the world of this one seemed very fun. I liked the art style, I liked all of it. And so even though I don't know this character from League of Legends or this world or whatever, I thought it looked really cool. The other one, Song of Nunu, a League of Legends story, comes out on November 1st. This one is more of an adventure game, and it's like a small child and this big furry demon thing.
Oh, he's so furry.
And it immediately brought to mind like Cereza and the Lost Demon.
That Bayonetta game?
Yeah, although this plays very differently and looks like it's having a lot more fun than that game. But that comes out on November 1st.
And then we go back into Nintendo first-party territory because we're talking about WarioWare Move It, a game that, again, we learned about in the last Direct. A lot of just, like, following up on things that were revealed last time. Coming out November 3rd, Wario is on vacation with his friends, / maybe probably just employees, at a tropical resort. And then it's WarioWare, and it seems to be largely based on like motion control, like movement stuff with the Joy-Con. There's a 4-player party mode. The Joy-Con IR sensor gets another like showcase here where you will have to use it for stuff. Yeah, crazy.
Yeah, so my favorite WarioWare game is Smooth Moves, the one from the Wii. And this looks like it could recapture that fun because each action, or what do they call it? Maybe it's action. Requires 2 Joy-Con, and you're making some sort of pose.
Yeah.
And it's just it feels very similar to Smooth Moves. To me, which is a very good thing. So I'm excited for this. Also, they love showing off the micro game where the guy has to like do some sort of form to make it so the chicken will lay an egg.
Yeah.
Because they show it like multiple times in the Direct, not in the
That's
like
funny.
in the sizzle reel. They're showing the same one. But yeah. Not that long. Weird, the little like renaissance that WarioWare has had on Switch within the past couple of years, after it being like a while from where we were getting like brand new games.
Yeah, that's true. Because the prior to Get It Together, the last one was on 3DS, and that was Gold, which is an amazing game, but it is a like compilation of all previous WarioWare games. I like that between Get It Together and this game, it feels like they're doing enough different stuff that the next time they do a like greatest hits of WarioWare, that they will have new things to add to the pile there. Next up is Ayuden Chronicle 100 Heroes, coming out April 23rd, 2024. Ayuden Chronicles, that's one of these games that's been like on the horizon for a while.
So this is the one that was kickstarted, right?
Yes.
And
there was like another like version of the game or like sub game that was released ahead of this.
That's right, because it was in our new releases and like months ago.
And we were like, what?
And I'm still a little bit like, what? Because I thought this was a Saga game, but you're right. You corrected me in the notes that this is from the folks who originated the Suikoden series.
Yes. And is more in line with that, which like it's a fine line, right? Because one of the things that this game is touting is that like there are, like 50 or 100 or whatever character, probably 100 because it's called 100 Heroes characters, and each one has their own like deep backstory, and like there are no shallow characters here, which is also kind of the promise of a Saga game. But the Saga is also like 6 characters or something like that. So cool to see this getting a little bit of a highlight here.
Next, we got some DLC for Eastward.
Eastward
Octopia, releasing holiday 2023. This is paid DLC for Eastward, but they tout that it can be accessed even if you haven't played the main game. It seems like it's the characters from the RPG.
Farming,
yeah.
That's what it's. I mean, the game has a very like grizzled stoic shepherding a young girl through a scary world, a very Mandalorian, a very Last of Us sort of setup, and this game is like the farming version of that. So they've like settled down maybe in post game, or there's some like interlude within the game where things are peaceful, and it's cool that you can access it at any time. I wonder, I liked Eastward okay, but I didn't find it compelling enough to like play over other stuff. I have it. I've put in maybe like 3 or 4 hours, but it seems like a cool thing to mess around with.
Next is Wargroove 2, a sequel to the Advance Wars like game that released earlier in the Switch's life cycle,
which I was quick to hop on board with because I was like, I would like in the early days of the Switch. I know it doesn't seem possible now, but in the early days of the Switch, tactical RPGs were few and far between, right?
Right, especially like especially one that aped that Advance Wars style.
Yes. but especially anything, right? Like this and Tiny Metal were like among the first, and I think both of those were like later in the first year, and it wasn't for a while that we would get like Fire Emblem or Into the Breach or Advance Wars. All this kind of stuff would come later. But anyway, I will not be tricked a second time into getting a Wargroove game. Not to say that's bad, it just didn't grab me. They did mention, quote, a new Mousefolk faction, the Fari. So the name of these people is the Fari, but they are a Mousefolk faction.
Yeah, too
Mousefolk.
good. It's Wargroove 2 is releasing on Switch as a console exclusive on October 5th. So I remember that being your experience with Wargroove, and then I feel like, and that doesn't mean anything, but I have a feeling that at some point they released a major update that tried to address a lot of those concerns.
I did not go back to it. Yeah.
But it'll be interesting to see what Wargroove 2 is, how it's received, because again, like you said, the first one released at a time where there weren't very many games like this on Switch.
Right.
And now there are a lot.
And just the whole like the pipeline for sequel to indie game is very interesting because we don't have like a ton of examples of it going well or going poorly. So like I don't know, it'll be cool to have another data point here. Next up is Dave the Diver, which is out on PC for sure right now. Oh yes, but that is definitely it, because first it is coming out first on consoles on Switch, October 26th. There's a free demo that's available now. You catch fish, you sell them for sushi, and just like live the life of this diver who dives, catches fish, and sells them.
Yeah, I feel like this game kind of went viral a few weeks/months ago.
Yeah.
And so I didn't dig too deeply into Dave the Diver
or too greedily
when it was kind of like blowing up. I know that there was somebody on our Discord who was playing it, but I think that this seems to, my understanding is that this is kind of like underselling the weirdness of the game.
Yes.
Because there's a reason that it kind of like went viral, but I don't know. I feel like I don't know enough about it to
I'm interested. It looks like it's cozy and like it's fun and cute, and you're playing as this like Dave guy who's just like having a nice time living in paradise, catching fish.
On Tuesday, we talked about Mario Kart Tour shutting down with the release of its like next tour, and at the time, I was wondering if that meant that we would be getting the last booster course pass wave for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe earlier than we normally do, which has been around the holidays, or at least it was last year. And the answer is no, seemingly. So up next in the Direct, they showed off the Booster Course Pass Wave 6, releasing holiday 2023. What we know so far is there's a new track, Daisy Circuit, from the Wii game, and then there are new characters. And I've got to say, before the Direct yesterday, our Discord was talking about what characters do you think will show up here?
Yeah.
And a lot of nailing it going on.
Oh,
because there was a lot of talk of Diddy Kong in the Discord, and that's from Double Dash, and Diddy Kong is being added. Funky Kong from the Wii game is being added. Pauline. Sorry, go ahead.
Those two were my, that I was like, those are the two they're going to add. I did not expect them to add 4.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Pauline from Tor, which I think Drew Mackey, who was on our show just a couple of weeks ago in the Discord, called that one out. And then I think one that I didn't realize wasn't Tor, but is a funny addition to me, is Peachette.
Yes, and you may be asking, huh? And who? Peachette is, of course, what happens when Toadette in New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe grabs a super crown. She transforms into a Princess Peach looking thing that is neither truly princess nor truly Toadette, and so we must call it Peachette.
Yep.
A bizarre like twist of language. This is the thing that spawned Bowsette, right? As the sort of like fan creation of like what happens if Bowser gets the super crown. He turns into like a leather mama, and like it's something that everyone loves. But so yeah, here's Peachette in her second appearance. I guess appeared in 2 or so. 3 appearances now for Peachette.
Yeah, very funny.
Then there was an Among Us announcement. I know Among Us is popular. This doesn't do anything for me. There's a new map called The Fungal.
comes out next month.
Yeah.
And then we got the Nintendo Switch games sizzle reel. And I'm actually really glad that Nintendo did this. But it was sometimes with sizzle reels, you get a bunch of like third party stuff, all
Right.
of that. This was just like, no, you want to know what's coming from Nintendo on the
Yes.
to the Nintendo Switch starting in September. They got you covered
in a linear fashion.
Yeah.
Like they're basically programming our next like 6 to 8 months of Nintendo games.
And the reason I thought it was helpful is because we do get these announcements in so many like disparate places that when you look at this list, you're like, oh yeah, there is actually a lot happening. Like there's a lot coming out.
But I feel like it is helpful. I don't know. It feels like a funny marketing beat after showing us 38 minutes of trailers for these games and then being like, let's I don't know, see like 4 seconds of each of these games again.
Yeah, no, it is funny to do like a like refresher at the very end, like you're cramming for a quiz or something.
Right.
But for whatever reason, and again, it could just be that my mindset is, hey, we're moving to the end of this generation.
Right.
But it again felt like a purposeful move on Nintendo's part to be like, look,
We are not abandoning you.
Exactly. Like, I know that there's a lot of talk of new hardware, but there is still stuff coming to the Switch.
Right.
And this is what it is.
Look, guys, I know we all want to go home, but the sooner we get through these games, the sooner we can do that, okay? So let's put the ball away and let's get to work.
So we got the Pokemon Scarlet and Violet DLC Part 1, the Teal Mask, which is out now.
F-Zero 99 available now.
Pikmin 1+2, the physical releases, which are coming out on September 22nd. And hey, no GameCube like surprise drop in this.
Yes. However, we're about to talk about a GameCube game.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it counts or not. Detective Pikachu Returns out on October 6th.
Super Mario Brothers Wonder, October 20th.
WarioWare Move It, November 3rd.
Super Mario RPG, November 17th.
Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Course Pass Wave 6 Holiday 2023.
Pokemon DLC Part 2, the Indigo Disc, Winter 2023.
Another Code Recollection, January 19th, 2024.
Mario vs. Donkey Kong, February 16th.
Princess Peach Showtime, March 22nd.
Splatoon 3 Side Order sometime in spring 2024.
And Luigi's Mansion 2 HD Summer 2024. So like, yeah, I mean, honestly, like a pretty good list.
But there's still one more thing.
Mark, there's just one more thing. Like Columbo, I'm here to tell you, it's just something that bothers me.
And that thing is Paper Mario, The Thousand Year Door.
Yep.
Getting a remake.
Again, they didn't label it. They didn't label it.
But it's coming out in 2024, which will be the game's 20th anniversary.
Crazy.
It was released on the GameCube in 2004. I really, really, really like The Thousand Year Door, and I think this remake looks beautiful. Like Super Mario RPG, I believe it is going to be a very faithful recreation.
I think this will even be more faithful than the Super Mario RPG.
But I am really curious as to how it is received by the world and by myself to play it again. It's been probably 15 years since I played it last.
Yeah.
And even then, I really enjoyed it, but I remember it feeling like a little backtracky sometimes. And same with, and I felt that way when I played Paper Mario when it was released on Nintendo 64 2 years ago. But yeah, so the characters are amazing. Like any Paper Mario game, the dialogue is really funny. This game was, they still have like unique Toads and unique Koopas and things like that. Like
there's like a little Bowser or a little Yoshi guy. Yeah.
The scenarios are really funny and really like fun and unique. So there's so much the combat is really fun. There's so much to like about this game, but I do wonder if it's going to feel like a 20-year-old game.
Yeah. I mean, and maybe it will. It is fascinating that we are in this like period now where Nintendo is remaking like two of the sort of like legendary status Mario RPGs in Mario RPG and in Thousand Year Door, where it's like, and they've moved so far away from that in both the Mario and Luigi series, which is now effectively dead, and the Paper Mario series, that like them are these like little bits of like trial balloon to see like, do people still respond to that classic style of game, or is it just like do people still respond to these classic games, and they continue the the direction they've been going with Mario RPGs for the last 20 years.
Right. Yeah, it will be really interesting, especially because I feel like we're reaching the point, like with Mario RPG with Donkey. What is this one called? Mario versus Donkey Kong. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Mario versus Donkey Kong, and then like Thousand Year Door, where it's like a lot of these games not super accessible for a really long time, and so for a lot of people they will be new, but they are old games that are being faithfully recreated.
Right.
And I do wonder what the limit on people's tolerance for that will be.
Yeah. I mean, there definitely is that. But like, I also wonder like the difference between like what people will buy and what people will enjoy playing. Like, if the Thousand Year Door ends up selling like 1.5 million copies, because that's like what a Nintendo game does. Is that okay?
Right. Yeah.
Is that
you would think that the expectations are in line with, I'm sure for Link's Awakening, that like faithful recreation, the expectations weren't the same as like a brand new Zelda game, and I'm sure that is true here as well.
Yeah. I wonder what their expectations are internally for like Princess Peach Showtime, right? Like, are they expecting that to be like a wide reaching game that like lots of different types of gamers will play?
Oh man,
or,
yeah.
Like what?
That is tough. I hope so. I mean, like I hope it has the reach of like a Yoshi game, or like I don't. Will it be like Luigi's Mansion numbers? I don't know. It will be really interesting to see.
I feel like
it feels like the skies could be the limit.
It could be, yeah. I mean, it's always been like a little bit hard to tell where like the next pop is going to come from, right? Like obviously as like Zelda fans, we were excited about Breath of the Wild before it came out, but like the fact that it penetrated the way it did, and like, what is that game sold like 18 million copies or something like that?
Breath of the Wild?
Yeah.
I think it's more than that. I think it's like
20
closer
something?
to 30. Yeah.
Okay, so like quite a bit more than what I was saying, but even like a huge numbers, right? And like you can predict that, like, yeah, Mario Kart's going to sell super well because it always sells super well, but like Animal Crossing was a surprise when it came out. And like I just wonder where they have what their expectations are for like any of these games. Do they suspect that any of these may be one of those that like pierces the sky and gets into the top 5?
Right. Or even, yeah, no, I think that's a really good point, because having a major like Nintendo game that is Princess Peach focused, that has a big marketing push, it's been in 2 directs now, and we'll hear more, like that is new. And
yes.
like is there an untapped audience there? And I would guess yes, probably.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's especially with the Super Mario Brothers movie being so Peach forward, that I'm sure there is an audience being like, well, when can I play the Peach game?
Yeah.
Especially among kids. Speaking of Mario and the Super Mario Brothers, the success of the Super Mario Brothers movie, we mentioned it in the June Direct, or when we were discussing the June Direct, that it was full of Mario stuff. This one is even more full of Mario stuff.
Yeah, it's kind
of
crazy.
Mario versus Donkey Kong. We're just gonna let's count these, okay? So Mario versus Donkey Kong, Super Mario RPG, Princess Peach Showtime. So that's what are we at? 4 right now. Luigi's Mansion. It's 5. WarioWare, let's count it because he's in the extended Mario universe. That's 6. The Booster Course Pass, 7. And then Thousand Year Door, 8. There are 8 Mario things in here, and they're not, with sort of the exception of Kart, they're not sports games, and they're not like weird little things. It's not Mario's Picross. Like, these are all like big Mario games.
I know. While I was watching the Direct, because I feel like the talk about this has gone away for a while, but there, I would say maybe a decade ago, there was a lot of online discourse about like everything Nintendo does is Mario.
Yeah.
And I was reminded of that discourse today when I was watching the Direct, because I thought to myself, there's a lot of Mario in this.
There is a lot of Mario in this. And I like Mario.
I like it too.
But like, there was But like there were like rumors leading up to this of like maybe a Kid Icarus Uprising port or whatever. And like no, nothing like that. At this point, they really are just playing the hits.
Yeah, but again, that feels to me like an end of console life playbook where it's just like, all right, let's these kind of safer bets. Doesn't take a lot of resources. We farm a lot of this out. It's like, hey, follow this game, just make it look pretty.
Yeah.
And while our teams are more focused on whatever comes next.
I mean, it really, to me, really feels like we are in a post the Super Mario Brothers movie world, right?
Meaning like it's just like Mario Mania?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're in Mario Mania. Okay, Mark, any other concluding thoughts here about this Nintendo Direct? Do you feel any differently now that we've talked about it for like an hour and a half?
No, I really kind of feel the same where it's like, yeah, they're looking through this list, especially Nintendo first party stuff. It's like, yeah, there are a lot of things that I am interested in and I'm looking forward to on here. So it's not like I'm not going to have things to play, but the heavy hitters are definitely out there looming. They're at, like changes in the air. It's unavoidable. Like we can't not talk about it at this point.
I mean, do you want to just do like a quick like inventory of like, hey, yeah, where is and with the sort of secondary thought of like, and is that stuff being saved for the next platform? Forever this rumor of a new Donkey Kong 2D game. I do not think that's what this Mario versus Donkey Kong is.
I don't think so either.
And of course Metroid Prime 4, right? Like if the new Switch can launch with like those two things and maybe another Mario game of some kind. I mean, whenever there's a new 3D Mario, because it's been since the last time we had a new like full 3D Mario game, Odyssey was the last one.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I feel like Metroid Prime 4 for sure is the big one, and that to me just feels like a Switch 2 launch title.
Yeah.
Like that is my expectation that that's what they're holding it for.
Yeah, I think if they could drop that and Donkey Kong in the first year and make them like exclusive to that platform, although I still like struggle with what they're going to make exclusive to the successor of Switch. But those feel like they would be system sellers. All right, Mark, we've talked about this from every angle. Let's close out our discussion of the September 2023 Direct. That is going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. What did you think of the Direct? You can email us at nintendocartridgesociety@gmail.com and let us know, or you can join the Discord by sending an email to that same email address, and you can talk about it in real time with a bunch of other people who are interested in talking about it. That's going to do it for this episode. Thank you so much to our 60-Minute patrons, Connor McCabe, Patrice Millette, David Hendley. We appreciate you all so much. Anthony DeLuca made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Ellers, saying thank you for listening.